Anyway, a lot of my friends that are here tonight have heard this story before, but it's the one I used to close my road shows with, and it's about bad attitudes or pessimistic people. I've always found something funny in just about everything I've ever seen all my life. I mean, I've even gotten tickled at funerals when I'd see somebody acting like they were so upset over the dead person up there, and I knew they hated their guts while they were alive. I got tickled at one here a while back. I was sitting there just shaking, and the lady behind me, there was somebody going up to the casket and was just about on the floor, you know, acting like they were sad. And I knew this woman they couldn't stand each other. The dead one couldn't stand her either. She was putting on a big show, and I got tickled. I was actually laughing, but I had my hands on my face. A woman behind me patted me on the shoulder. She said, "Baby, it's going to be okay. The Lord knows best. They're in a better place right now." But I get tickled at the worst times. Always have. It's got me in trouble in my life. But I've always been an optimist, trying to find the good side of everything. I have been that way all my life, and that's why I cannot stand being around someone who's negative and pessimistic all the time. I just won't tolerate it, can't stand to even look at him. But the man that's been cutting my hair since I was about 6 years old right here in Nacogdoches is that way. And I don't know why you would still go to see him. He'll put you in a bad mood if you'll let him. But anyway, here a while back, I went in there to get a haircut. He said, "How you doing this morning, Willie?" I said, "I'm doing real well. How you doing?" "Well, I ain't doing too good. Business is bad." I can understand why. He said, "My wife's griping at me all the time. My old back's hurting from standing up all these years." He said, "I'm just not doing too well." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry to hear it. I need to go ahead and get a haircut, though." And he said, "What you been doing lately?" And I said, "Well, I've been working on my new album. I try to do one every year." He said, "You know, there were some people in here the other day talking about you." And I said, "Before you get started, the main thing you need to know about me is I do not care what they say one bit, especially your friends." He said, "Well, they had one of them jam boxes in here. They was listening to one of those phone prank CDs, and none of them even smiled. Didn't think none of them were funny at all." And I said, "Well, number one, most of your friends probably can't hear to start with." And I said, "We've done sold about 1,250,000 of them since we started." And he said, "Well, I can't believe there's 1,250,000 fools out there." And I said, "Well, there are a lot of people that like my stuff. Go and cut my hair." He said, "What else you been doing?" I said, "Well, for about 20 years, I've toured doing a lot of concerts, sometimes 70, 80 of them a year, all over the United States, and worked on some cruise ships and been a lot of places, met a lot of people, had a good time." He said, "Well, I can't believe anybody come see your show." I said, "Well, sometimes we'd have a big crowd, sometimes we just have a handful, but I always try to do my best for the ones who were there." He said, "Well, I wouldn't come see your show." And I said, "Well, I would not want you or any of your friends to come to my show. Just quit worrying about it." He said, "Well, what you got planned coming up?" I said, "Well, me and Lucretia have been saving up our money for several years, and we're going to take a trip overseas." He acted like that made him mad that we had enough money to do that. And he said, "Well, where are you going?" I said, "We're going to Italy." He said, "Italy? I was over there during World War II. That is the nastiest, dirtiest place in the world." He said, "You can't understand nothing them people say. They scream at you. They talk real loud." He said, "I can't believe you going over there. You should have gone to Hawaii or somewhere like that." I said, "We already got our plane tickets." He said, "What airline you going on?" I told him the name of it. He said, "Well, if it don't crash before you get over there, it's going to be late. They're going to lose your luggage. The food's going to be horrible. It's going to be the worst trip you ever had in your life." And I said, "Well, we already got the tickets." He said, "Where are you going to stay when you get over there?" And I told him the name of the hotel, and he went, He said, "Me and my wife stayed in a hotel owned by that company in New York about 2 months ago." He said, "When we got there, they had sold our room, would not give us our money back. We spent the first 2 nights sleeping on a pallet on the floor in the basement with a washing machine running down there. When they finally moved us to a room, it was filthy, it was dirty, the food was horrible. I cannot believe you staying there." I said, "Well, I already got it reserved." He's starting to get under my skin. He said, "Well, what you going to do when you get over there after you get out of your hotel room?" I said, "Well, we're going to take a tour of Italy." He said, "Them tour buses over there ain't nothing but a bunch of wore-out school buses. No windows in them. Flies and dust coming in them. Got an Italian standing up there in the front talking, screaming. You don't even know what he's talking about." He said, "The reason I know so much about him, I was watching Fox News the other night. One of them ran off a cliff and killed 27 people." I said, "Well, we've already got it planned." And he said, what else are you going to do? And I said, well, the main thing I want to do when I get over there, I said, I'm not a Catholic, but I've always admired the Pope, and I want to see if I can see the Pope. He said, you and about 100,000 other people are going to be standing out there in front of that, was it St. Peter's Square or whatever you call it over there. And he said, the Pope, be about 2 or 3 hours before he comes out, he's going to be so far away, he's going to look about like this to you. And he's going to speak in 7 or 8 languages, including English, none of which you're going to be able to understand. And you're going to have wasted a whole day out there for nothing. And I said, well, at least I can come back and say that I have seen in person the Pope, which is more than you can say. So we went on and took the trip, and it was absolutely wonderful. Couldn't have been any better. And I said, when we got back, I went down there to get another haircut, and I was ready for the whole food. I sat down, and he said, well, I guess your trip to Italy was a disaster. I said, as a matter of fact, it was wonderful. He said, well, tell me about that airline. I said, well, we boarded the plane down there, George Bush Intercontinental, and I said, the pilot happened to be a fan of mine. He listened to me on KILT radio in Houston. He upgraded me in Lucretia to first class. She got one of them real wide seats, which was a blessing for her. They fed us anything we wanted. I said, couldn't have been any better. And by the way, I had taken my sister-in-law, Pearline, on this trip. I forgot to tell you all that. They upgraded us. Any kind of food or drink, like I said, that we wanted. It was a wonderful flight. It was on time. We got there. They had our luggage completely safe. And he said, well, tell me about that hotel. I said, we checked in. One of the most beautiful hotels I've ever seen. 5, 6 stars, or whatever the most you can get it. The food was wonderful. The room service was amazing. By the time you hang up almost, they'd have your food up there. The room was absolutely beautiful. We'd sit out on the little porch out there at night in our robes at the hotel furnaces and watch the people go by, walking the streets of Rome. I said, in fact, the service was so good that one night about 2 o'clock, I got up to use the bathroom. When I came back, they'd done made the bed up again. That's how good they were. He said, well, I cannot believe that. He said, tell me about that tour. I said, I was standing out there waiting for that old raggedy school bus, and this big white Lincoln limousine pulled up. I said, the man driving it was from Etal, Texas. His name was Nathan Pookie Alders. He talked just as slow as anybody you've ever seen. Drove us all over Italy. Showed us the sights, couldn't have been any better. And he said, well, I guess you saw the Pope. I said, as a matter of fact, I was standing out there with 100,000 people, just like you said. And I said, somebody tapped me on the shoulder. And I looked around, it was one of them cardinal fellas that works for the Pope. He was wearing a red suit, kind of like the one I used to wear on the road at my shows. He said, excuse me, ain't you Willie P. Richardson, the phone prankster from Nacogdoches, Texas? I said, yes, I sure am. He said, well, the Pope was just talking about you last night. And I said, sure enough. He said, yeah. He's one of your biggest fans. He said, he's got all of your CDs. In fact, he first discovered you on the internet. He visited your website, worldwidewillie.com. I said, yes, sir. I said, the way you probably remember that is the way most people do. World is in the whole world. Wide is in my wife, Lucretia. And then Willie, my name.com. And I said, we've done very well with that. We've sold a lot of records and other products on there. In fact, we've had it online ever since Al Gore invented the internet many years ago. We've done well with it. But anyway, I said, well, he's got all your CDs and your videos. When the Pope goes catfishing, he uses Willie P. Richardson's Catfish Magic Cheese Dough Bait on his trot lines. He uses your chili mix and all your products. And he told me that if I ever saw you out here, that he would like to meet you. Would you be interested in going in with me, just me and you, to see the Pope? And then Lucretia and Pearline, they started up, said, well, can we go? Can we go? And that cardinal said, no, ma'am. Said he just wanted to see Mr. Richardson. Here's how ignorant they are. Pearline said, well, tell his wife we said hello. So anyway, I walked on in there. Not being a Catholic, I really didn't know what to do other than what maybe had seen on television. And I was walking along with that cardinal. I said, what are we supposed to do? He said, you just follow my lead. He said, the Pope will bend over and probably say something to you. I said, all right. So we eased in there in this big, beautiful cathedral-like church house, had candles down the walls, and hear this music playing real softly. And looked like about 100 yards now. I could see the Pope. He's sitting way up on this high throne with these white robes on him, just a beautiful sight. So we eased up there, and we both knelt down right in front of the Pope. Old Barber's really listening to me. I said, the Pope leaned over and he said something to me. And then, y'all, I just quit talking. About 30 seconds later, old Barber said, all right, Willie B., what did that Pope say to you? I said, well, he was very nice. He said, I got to tell you, Mr. Richardson, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I've got all of your products. I think you're hilarious. I love your comedy. And he said, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I feel led by the Lord to tell you something. And I said, well, what is it, Mr. Pope? He said, that's the worst haircut I've ever seen in my life.